Welcome to Biocanic's Health Intelligence Exchange community, where leading practitioners in integrative health approaches will discuss how they solve the most challenging and common health issues. These regular Q&A discussions are designed to take a deep dive into case studies and integrative approaches in order to elevate the collective knowledge of both experienced and new practitioners alike. Biocanic's Health Intelligence Exchange, your community for functional medicine.
All right, welcome to the Health Intelligence Exchange, everyone. I'm Jeremy Malecha, CEO and co-founder of Biocanic, and today I am rejoined by my most favorite HICS guest, Jenn Malecha. Today we'll be discussing how to streamline success and build profitable practice in the functional health industry. She's one of our speakers for the upcoming virtual HICS Encore event on March 7th and 8th. So this is your chance to reconnect with some of our amazing speakers from October, including Jenn, to learn how to launch, scale, and expand your health business. You can find all the details to RSVP for tickets for the descriptions in the comments below. Plus, these tickets include free access to the original recordings from our first event. Jenn, the Wholistic Health Boss, helps career-driven, results-focused functional health entrepreneurs make more than $10K or more per client per month quickly by finding their ideal clients with a start-to-finish approach, building, pricing, selling, and efficiently delivering their programs so they can scale their impacts and income. Through her Wholistic Health Boss health coaching brand, she also supports busy health-minded professionals in taking back control of their health by giving them access to the right lab tests and resources so they can find the missing pieces, to their health puzzle and actually fix what's wrong with them and get back to feeling like themselves again. Thanks so much for joining us today. And I feel like I should know that way better, but it's a lot more when you're actually reading it.
Well, excited to be here because today is quite an exciting day for the functional health industry.
Yeah. And what are you referring to?
Well, I am really excited because RFK Jr. was actually officially confirmed this morning as Health and Human Services Secretary. And, you know, I just think like setting aside politics, right, whatever side of the fence you might be on, this is huge for us in this industry because the concepts of functional, holistic, and integrative health finally have a voice like never before. And so this is going to inspire more people than ever before to seek out the services of the audience here. They're going to be looking for functional, integrative, holistic practitioners because there's a conversation that is happening on a bigger stage right now. And so I think this is so timely for us to be here talking about how to build a profitable practice, how to scale while avoiding burnout so that the people that are here listening to this can be ready to handle the growing number of people that are going to be searching for functional approaches to health now.
Yeah, I think, we see, the big brands like Function Health, even Everlywell back in the day, really bringing access to consumer lab testing, but leaving those end users and those consumers without anywhere to go for answers. So kind of shifting over, how do you help practitioners take advantage of those health conscious consumers that have kind of already invested, but are looking for answers?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because those consumers that have already invested but not found the solutions, they are already well educated and ready to invest. They need to just be able to find and connect with the right person that's going to resonate with them and be able to provide the solutions that they need. So one of the first most critical things for practitioners to do, even though they resist this, is to actually niche down into a very specific ideal client that is going to help you stand out in the crowd, in the industry, amongst all the other options that are there, to easily connect with and attract those people into your business that are most ideal to work with and are looking for the solutions that you have to offer. And Jeremy, this is the number one pitfall that we see so often in with practitioners and coaches because they resist this. And this is when we're resisting niching, that is actually the fast track to burnout. It's also what is currently wrong with our health system. Our health system is about being general, right? very generalistic in whether that's primary care models, or even if we think about the silos of endocrinology or gastroenterology, like those are not niched areas. Those are still general practice areas. So we really want to help people, these practitioners, what I want to help practitioners do is find the 3% of their specific marketplace where they're going to have their greatest success. And this is a statistic that is a success metric from across all different industries. Like, there's great marketing mentors like Seth Godin who talk about the critical importance of niching down into 3% of the marketplace in order to build a profitable business.
Mm-hmm. So, kind of being devil's advocate around niching, why, we hear it from a lot of practitioners. If I niche down, then it prevents me from helping people, or I'm not able, I want to work with everyone. I want to help with everyone. So why are you so insistent that they do niche down and find their ideal audience?
Right. I talked about this in great detail in a training that I did last night, and we can share the link here in the comments for people to go see more of this as well. But, I totally understand this because I resisted niching when I first started my practice as well, too. And I'm still a practitioner. And we are heart-centered, and we do want to help, everybody. But as the saying goes, when you're trying to help everybody, you're actually helping no one, right? It ends up, you get in this place where you're doing a little bit of a lot of things, but nothing actually really well. And then we end up sacrificing ourselves because we're spread so thin to try to help all these like different people wide and far. And when we are stretched thin and burn out, we're not actually serving at our greatest capacity to have the biggest impact that we could possibly have. And I think that we have a responsibility as health professionals, especially in the functional medicine space, to lead by example. So we cannot sacrifice ourselves in order to serve other people. We have to make sure that our cup is full and that we have the energy and the capacity to really be of service to people in a big way, right? I also think about again, this is what's broken in our conventional health system model or the traditional model, is that people aren't getting the specialized personal attention that they need for their specific situation. So this is where when you niche down into your, area of genius, then you get to actually be an expert guide to somebody's specific experience. And that's where they are going to be more compliant, more engaged in the work. They are going to get better results with you. They're going to then, send referrals to you because they're having a really great experience. So to ease the resistance around this a little bit, one of the reasons why practitioners resist niching so much, why you get that feeling of, but I can help everybody, is because traditional niching really centers around demographics, like age range, gender, condition specific. And I remember that was the sticking point for me, because I was like, but I can help. I want to work with men and women. And with my training as an FDN, I know that I can positively impact any condition. And I was like, I want to work with a wider range, an age of people, I have a personal limit or boundary. I don't work with people under the age of 16 or 18 actually, but I wanted to be able to work with a range of age. And so when I was going through all of these different business and marketing trainings back in the day, 8 years ago or however long it was, actually longer than that, and everybody was talking about, niching solely around the concepts of demographics, that's where my resistance came up. And then I started to explore the concept of psychographics. And psychographics is where I center my training around niching for practitioners. So what's really interesting about psychographics when we think about this is that psychographics are actually relevant in all places of our life for how we create personal connection. So psychographics are things like personality traits, hobbies, similar experiences in life. What are your morals and your values, right? So psychographics are the reason why you surround yourself with the friends that you have, It's the things that you have in common, the things that you share. It's also why maybe in professional settings, why you like connect with certain colleagues and not other ones, right? It's why you would have an iPhone versus an Android. Like, I'm an iPhone user. That when I see iPhone commercials, it totally resonates with me. When I see Android commercials, it doesn't. That doesn't depict what my life experience is or what I want it to be. So psychographics are often left on the table when we think about niching, and this is what liberated me to the idea of niching. So my niche, as you kind of read in my bio, and my health practice is a busy, health-minded professional looking for the missing pieces of their health puzzle so they can actually fix whatever is going on and get back to feeling like themselves again. So my niche said nothing about demographics, right? But it was also very specific to a very specific description of a person. And that person is actually a reflection of me and the experience that I have had in life. So I intimately know that person's experience. I can be their expert guide and helping them get those solutions.
So maybe kind of turning this to a case study beyond yourself and kind of highlighting Dr. Tracy Gavid, since he'll also be at the Hicks Encore as well and did a great presentation. Maybe, and he's been very transparent about his journey. Maybe kind of walk us through when you were working with him, kind of where he started and then how you helped him get to that point.
Yeah. And like, this is such a good example. I'm glad that you're bringing this up because, you know, what happens in the beginning when we go through this like niching process is that we will identify like a starter niche based on the current like data points and knowledge that we have, like how we can depict our exact ideal person. And then as we start to work with people, we collect more data input to be able to refine and optimize it. And so I say that really like nailing your niche is a little bit of a journey. It can take some time to get it to a place where it's like so solid and so clear that you're never going to question it again. And the point is that we just want to get people started, right? And moving in that direction. So Tracy, for example, when he originally niched in, he decided he was going to niche into men's health. And then he brought some of those psychographics in that like these particular men were going to be, you know, C-suite executives. They were very like successful in their career and their business. And so he went out and started marketing to them, right? And as he started marketing to them, they started to come into his programs. And Tracy had designed some like high ticket packages. But where they were stumbling was they were having a hard time getting these clients to actually like engage and be compliant in the work. Like they weren't responding to emails, they weren't following through with the protocols. And so ultimately, like Tracy wasn't able to have the impact that he wanted and really deliver results and get great testimonials, essentially, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, like he was getting results, but like not as exponential as they could have been. And it was creating a lot of work for him and his team, right? So one of the things that I really like to talk about with people that we can dig maybe a little bit more into is the idea of retention, because it actually costs you a lot more to acquire new clients than it does to retain them. And retention is where you have your greatest capacity for generating revenue and profitability that nobody's paying attention to. But back to Tracy's story is that as he started to go out there and work with people, there was a couple things that came to light. And so he connected with me and we got to look at his packages and we got to talk about the customer or the client experience and go, what is working well? What is not working well? Where are they dropping off? And how do you like optimize the way that you are providing your services in order to increase compliance, which ultimately is going to increase retention, which is going to increase the outcome of results, referrals, and revenue. And we were able to really look at how to better organize the delivery of his services, like, you know, the lab testing process, along with the appointments that they were having, and how was him and his team providing support in between, and understanding, for example, that like these are really busy, high level executives, that they are not paying attention to all these emails that are getting sent out. Like, what kind of support do they need in order to be successful? How do you hold them accountable to showing up and doing the work, and plugging those types of structures into his process that increased the outcome, right? Essentially, they were like throwing so much at the client when they were first onboarding them, it was creating overwhelm and disorganization, right? In this scenario with this type of clientele, you may also want to consider, when I onboard this client, this high level of, C-level executive, maybe I also need to collect their assistant's information, because that executive assistant is actually the one that has control over their calendar. And that person can facilitate with making sure that this person participates in the program, right? So those are some of the initial things that we did that like streamlined his process internally, and then like helped him and his team work more efficiently, more effectively, so they could handle a larger volume of clients while also producing results at the same time. The other thing that started to come to light in this work together is, as he was starting to work with these type of men, he realized that he got even more clear about who this ideal man in his practice was. And his ideal man was not necessarily a C-suite executive of a corporation, but an entrepreneur. And like startup businesses or entrepreneurial type of business was actually where it got even more like detailed and clear about that 3% of the marketplace that he's going to be that expert guide for. And so now that he's clear about that, he's having even greater success in his marketing, knowing where to market himself, driving traffic to his practice, and creating like customer client loyalty through that process, because there's so much resonance with the work and the person that's coming in to do the work.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, it's a great story, and love it when he presents. So we're looking forward to that. So, obviously one of the big things is kind of, burning out, and what Tracy also has invested in with a lot of your other clients is around automation. One of the things that we hear, especially at conferences, even last weekend, I'm sure we'll hear it next weekend, is, well, it's either I don't have the time or I don't have the resources to invest, yet the inefficiency and the burnout is kind of driving them to tear their hair out. How do you tackle that automation question? How does somebody start, and where do they go?
Yeah. So first we have to take a step back and look at the big picture of what's happening in the practice. And automation and systems are going to work best when you have a repeatable process, right? So automation is being able to leverage the prediction of what is happening next and what needs to happen next. So that means that you have to go back and look at the way that you're working and say, do I have a repeatable process in place? And this goes back to niching, right? Because when you are not niche down, you have this wide range of people coming in. That then sets you up to the point where you are customizing all the time. And we can't fully use the capacity of automation when we are constantly customizing, because it's not a predictable, repeatable process. So when we get clear on that ideal client, then we can say, okay, I'm attracting a common person who has common problems, who needs similar solutions. So now I can create a blueprint for how I'm going to work with this person. And that blueprint is what gets automated. Here's the repeatable steps that take place when we work together, when I'm onboarding them, as we're going through the program together. And now we can template, delegate, and automate that because we know exactly what is supposed to happen. So when I hear practitioners or coaches saying that they're burnt out, Jeremy, especially when they're complaining about being burnt out doing one-on-one work, it's not that the one-on-one work is burning them out. It's the inefficiency at which they're operating, because they haven't taken this first critical step to get more narrow in their niche, so that they attract this common person that needs similar solutions. And then the second critical step is to like package up their services. So you have standard packages that are meeting this person's exact needs. And that package then becomes the blueprint for how you're going to template, delegate, and automate. So this is exactly what Tracy did, right? He got clear on his niche first. Then he created his standard packages that he was going to offer, which became the blueprint for how his team was going to leverage their EMR along with their CRM, along with some of the other tools that they were going to be using so they could template, delegate, and automate as much as possible. This also gave him a blueprint then to bring in coaches to facilitate the majority of the one-on-one work with these clients so that he could leverage himself out of the clinical components of the practice and do the bigger things in the business area that he wanted to do, like flying across country to be on big name podcasts, for example, right? Mm-hmm. So now he has physician's assistants, he has PAs, and he has FDN health coaches who literally are the ones that are delivering all of the service to his clients that are coming into his practice. And they have a blueprint. We would call this from a business perspective. People might be more familiar with the name like standard operating procedures. So like we have standard operating procedures or SOPs for various operational things that would happen in the business, right? Mm-hmm. Everything from like, how you're doing your bookkeeping, for example, you should have SOPs for everything. I think about my like old school corporate days when I either hired somebody into a position in a corporate setting, or I got promoted or hired into a corporate setting. You always had training on what the job description was and what the procedure of your job was, right? Mm-hmm. So the packages serve as this blueprint or these SOPs where like, because Tracy did this, his team has a standard operating procedure for how they work with clients, mm-hmm. essentially, right? So by doing that, by having that foundation in place, that has freed up Tracy's time to now work on bigger things. So like Tracy just launched I'm sure he'll come on and talk about his new program. I can't remember the name of what it is right now. Peak Launch. Right. So now Tracy's out there doing different things where he's looking at courses and group programs and other offerings that he can create. He's getting on bigger name podcasts because he's freed up his time, right? He's not in burnout. He has freedom to do these other bigger and better things. And when we have this solid foundation of our one-on-one work that we do with people, this also serves as the framework for what you would then put into a group program or a course mm-hmm. that is in alignment with your method, your, kind of the method of how you work with people, your brand, your niche. It meets those ideal clients' needs and becomes this platform to upsell them into, bigger offerings, for example. So this is the solid foundation that every business needs.
Yeah. So maybe shifting gears a little bit, I was talking to a naturopathic physician last weekend at a conference, and they had a busy clinic in Oregon where they have insurance reimbursement, but definitely kind of burning out in the one-on-one. Made the comment, I know I need to convert to a cash pay model, but I have a busy clinic, it's full of patients, are getting reimbursement for their services. How does somebody like that think about transitioning out of that model because they are so busy with that so much volume? Where do they start?
Yeah, well, as Dr. Carrie Jones said at HICS in October, which she's going to come back and talk about at HICS Encore, is be like Nike and just do it, right? So I've helped guide quite a few practices make this transition. And, we don't want to disrupt the current stability that you have within your practice. We want to focus on, what new is coming into the practice. So this is where we can get really clear on who's the ideal client, the niche clients that are going to come in here, package up the services in a profitable, efficient, and effective way. And all the new patients or clients that are coming into the practice are going to go into this new model, this cash-based, service-oriented structure where it's going to help you operate more efficiently and effectively, right? And once we start to make that transition, we're going to test and optimize that process and really dial that in. And once that feels dialed in, then we can circle back to like the, legacy patients, as I call them sometimes, or like the previous book of business, and go, okay, how do we address, like phase 2 is addressing the transition with them, essentially. And knowing that there is going to be some attrition, and that is okay, because you, as a practitioner, are uniquely designed to really help a very specific person. And maybe there's just not an alignment with some of these legacy patients or clients anymore, right? What happens when we do this is what a lot of practices, or every single one, will experience is they start to implement these packages, and the packages boost the profitability of the practice right away. Like these one-on-one kind of service-oriented, like profitable packages are the fastest path to cash and like really financial stability. You're not chasing your tail anymore. You're not chasing people. They're like locked in, they're committed. Like there's a structure in place for you and the team. It's actually going to free up time, and it's going to create greater outcomes for you. And so we're going to boost profitability with everybody coming in. And so you're going to maybe lose a little attrition on the back with some of that legacy. But what happens is these practices will still break even, and most of them actually increase their revenue, even with the attrition that will take place, basically. One of the things, like with this business model, what we'll implement also is a complimentary membership model. So the first entry point for people should really be like this kind of package offering. We want to hold them in a really supportive structure so that they are getting results. We are engaging them in the process of health transformation, because nobody gets better after 1 to 2 appointments. We all know that here. So why would we offer that? That's kind of doing somebody a disservice. We should really be like letting them know what it takes to get healthy, and then guiding them through that process, basically. When we hold them in this like supportive structure in a package, we are also teaching them at this time how to be a really good patient or client. So as we're kind of teaching them how to do that through a package model, then once they get to a more stable place, we can kind of release them into a membership model. And now they know how to like utilize your practice well. They don't have very many questions. They're a little bit more self-sufficient in this place, which makes that membership model more effective and profitable for you also, right? So that's what we call like a continuity program. They're going to continue working with you after a package for maintenance and optimization. So then we can also leverage that as an option for some of your legacy or legacy patients or clients, right? Like thinking about that previous book of business that you want to transition into this new like model, is we can circle back to them and say, hey, it's been a really long time, or been some time since we checked in to see like how your health is going, and what you're trying to like work on or achieve at this point in time. Let's set up a call to discuss that. And that essentially becomes like a service-oriented sales call, where you're literally assessing that person. And then you say, as we've been in practice for X number of years, or I've seen X number of patients or clients over time, we really have taken into consideration how we can best support people like you and our practice. And what we've come to find is that, based on your scenario, that you need more support. And so we've actually redesigned the way that we work with people. And now we have these different packages to help you get from here to your goal. And you can roll them into one of those packages. And if that doesn't feel like a fit, you can also roll them into your membership offering, right? And again, there's going to be some attrition, and that's okay. We have to be okay with that those people are just not in alignment for the way that we want to run our business and how we can help people the most. Knowing that you're still going to be profitable on the outside of this because of the way that you are now designing your business to be profitable and to operate efficiently and effectively for the greatest impact and income.
Yeah. All right. So shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about marketing, right? So when you got into the industry a very long time ago, it was, I think it was probably Google search, and then we have Facebook ads. And throughout the years, we've seen a lot of different things come into the space, from TikTok to, summits or other information. What are you seeing today? Like what used to work that's no longer working, and what's kind of coming up in the horizon, and what do you continue to do to help support people with getting their brand out there, getting their name out there so they can make those connections?
Yeah. So I would say the things that aren't working first are business pages on social media. So Facebook business page, Instagram business page. These are not really like working well with the algorithm. And what we're finding is that people want to connect with people. So your personal social media pages for Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, those types of things are actually going to perform better if that's the space that you want to dabble in. What we always want to remember is that no matter where we are marketing ourselves, whether that's in-person talks, social media, doing other stuff, your number one priority is to always be moving people onto your email list, because your email list is the only thing that you own. So we have seen in the last couple of years, I mean, even somewhat recently in the last couple of months, some of these social media platforms go down, right? Like Instagram was down recently. I was trying to do an Instagram live and me and the other practitioner couldn't get on, and the platform was completely down for most of the day. So you don't want to rely on that. And really, from a marketing perspective, it takes people time. We have to nurture them for them to be ready to schedule a call with us or invest in something that we have to offer. So your email list is where you get to create consistent connection with them, to nurture that relationship, to build trust and rapport to them. That's going to eventually lead to somebody investing in your services, right? What I'm actually seeing work really well with a lot of the practitioners that are working with me is actually in-person talks, getting out in their community and doing in-person talks. I think people are really craving in-person connection. And also part of that is because we don't have full control over social media algorithms. So people aren't always seeing all of our content. But when you're doing an in-person talk, you're like, in a very physical space and container where they're in front of you for a guaranteed amount of time that is creating that connection with you. So I would really encourage people to explore doing some in-person talks, which also kind of relates to partnerships and collaborations, right? And this is, when I started my practice, social media wasn't what it is now at all. And so I didn't even use social media to start my practice. I leveraged a lot of my local relationships, like my yoga studio, the kettlebell studio that I was working at, the chiropractor I went to, the acupuncturist that I went to, and creating partnerships and opportunities with them that led to clients coming in. And what's really interesting is that my acupuncturist that I partnered up with, in 2014, I want to say, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, she still sends me referrals, and she doesn't even live here anymore. She lives in Idaho and we're in San Diego. But because she got to connect with me and experience my work and send clients to me that had great experiences, like she's still one of my greatest referral partners, which is pretty amazing. And everything is about building a relationship with people in any capacity of whatever you're doing marketing. It's all about building a relationship. We have to remember that for somebody to work on their health, it's a very vulnerable place to be in, right? First of all, for them to stand up and say, yes, I need help. That takes a lot of, vulnerability and humility to ask for that. And then secondly, to trust you to do that and to give you money to do that. We say that working, for somebody to enroll with you, it's like the equivalence of getting married. It's an investment of time and money. So it takes a while to work up to marriage, right? And we just have to remember that in any kind of marketing perspective, whether you're running Facebook ads or in-person talks, that once you are doing those things, how are you utilizing and leveraging those things to actually build a relationship with somebody, to gain that trust so that they see you as that expert guide and they trust you with their time and their money and their health.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your upcoming events. Obviously, we have Hicks Encore, but maybe talk to us a little bit about your business masterclass, and then we'll talk about Hicks as well.
Yeah, well, I just did a training last night, and it was just so, I feel like divinely timed given this monumental moment today of RFK being confirmed, and just kind of the magnitude of what is happening for our industry right now. So last night in this business training that I did, we talked about the 3 critical steps that it takes to build a profitable practice while you're avoiding burning out and making it scalable. And so in this training, we talked about nailing your niche and your core marketing message to stand out and attract your ideal clients, how to design these profitable type of packages like we've been discussing today to work more efficiently and effectively for that greatest impact. We actually even talked about like targeted marketing strategies and enrollment call strategies, and like how you kind of bring this all together to streamline your practice so that you can actually like scale with freedom. And these 3 critical steps is the framework that I've utilized not only in my business, but I've also mentored other practitioners with at any stage of business. These 3 critical steps have been a proven framework to scale any cash-based functional health business of any stage or any size. And so I just put up the replay for this training for anybody who wants to check that out. We can drop that in the comments. And along with that training, I also discussed my masterclass, because I give you a lot of content in the training from last night if you guys go watch that replay. But, you know, a lot of times people will get content like this and they feel really like great about the content, but they stumble with the implementation part of it. So to help people, these practitioners, like implement these 3 steps so that you can be a health hero in the world and not stumble. I also was offering my step-by-step playbook in my masterclass, where you get expert guidance from me, laser coaching, and you get to connect with community. And some of the bonuses that I'm throwing in there as well are these live upcoming business planning workshops, right? Because the other thing that I find with health practitioners and coaches is that they love to hang out in the clinical comfort zone, right? Mm-hmm. Like everybody loves the clinical side of what they do, but they're not always thinking about the business side of what you're doing. And so these live business planning workshops, there's one on February 26th and one on February 28th. You get to actually come to both of them if you want to, as part of this opportunity. Is like, this is where we're going to help you create a business plan of sorts, like taking a look at, you know, how do you measure your impact, which we typically do through income. So if you want to have a great impact, what does that look like in terms of money? How do you know you're having a great impact? What kind of income would you be generating as a result of that for the year? And then knowing what you want your impact to be for the year as a measurement of income, how do we drill that down into quarters? So how are we going to like break that down into like, you know, the first quarter of the year, which is January through March, and then the second quarter of the year, April through June, for example. And then we get into the nitty-gritty detail of what are the strategies, the actionable things that you're going to execute on like a daily, weekly, or monthly basis that is going to produce those results, right? So if we tie this back to like what we were just talking about, marketing, you know, are you going to execute a strategy of doing an in-person talk once a month, right? And then your actionable steps are going to be that, I was actually just talking to one of our practitioners, Julie James, about this, is that her actionable step is she's going to have an hour on her calendar every week to follow up and nurture her in-person talk opportunities, and also research and reach out to new in-person talk opportunities, so that she is then, you know, making sure that she's getting this in-person talk once a month that is going to generate discovery calls for her, that's going to lead to clients, new clients for her, right? So we have to have a plan in place. Like, a basketball team or a football team doesn't go out onto a field without a plan. You know, like if we want to win, we have to have a play. We have to have a plan. And so I really want to help people in these live upcoming workshops, like develop your playbook. What is your plan that's going to create the winning streak for you?
Yeah. And kind of building on that in terms of talking about your business plan, you've obviously taken advantage of bringing in interns and support staff. When does a practitioner think about bringing somebody on board to help them out? How would they think about that? When should that happen in their business, et cetera?
So good. These are the kinds of things that we talk about in the laser coaching components of like the workshops, is based on what your plan is. When is something the right thing to do, and when is the right time to do it, essentially. So sometimes the business plan for the quarter is like just what you said, Jeremy, is that in order to get to the next level, maybe this quarter, we have to focus on building out the team, right? So if one of the strategies this quarter is like to build out or train up the team so that we can delegate more to them, we're going to create like a stronger foundation. And then that way in the following quarter Q3, the team is operating and owning this part of the business. And then now in Q3, you could like shift your focus onto much bigger marketing strategies, because everybody wants to focus on so much on marketing, but we don't want to turn on the fire hose if you don't have the ability to hold on to the fish that you're catching, right? So we don't want a hole in our net. If we're going to go out fishing, if we're going to go and spend all this money on a boat to catch all these fish, we have to like make sure that we are like capitalize on that. We're not losing those opportunities, right? So sometimes when we think about business, we do have to think about, how do we put this structure in place? Like Debbie Robinson is a great example. She actually just asked me this question. She said, I want to hire an FDN coach. I want to hire an intern to work under me so I can start having them take over, the lab testing and the working with the clients, and I can then grow and expand. And I was like, Debbie, that is exactly what you need to do, but not right now. Because in order to be able to capitalize on bringing somebody into your business, you need to have your process in place. So she's actually at a place in her business right now where she is automating her hybrid group program. So hybrid means that it's a group program, but they get one-on-one sessions with her because there's a lab test involved. And she's been doing that manually, which is inefficient, right? So we don't want to bring a team member in and train them in these inefficient ways. That's not helpful. And it's not a standard repeatable process. She's still kind of all over the place. So I was like, Debbie, we really have to focus on getting your process in place, which is going to create more efficiency for you in you still handling this component. And once that's solid, now it's going to be more effective and efficient to bring in a team member so you can train them in this standard operating procedure, which is going to leverage you out of this part of the business, which again is exactly what we were talking about earlier with what Tracy did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I had to put Debbie on a content creation diet because which a lot of the practitioners out there, like you guys love to create content, but it's also a huge distraction. And like the wheels are coming off your wagon, like your bus, and you're losing people left and right, and you're not, increasing your customer lifetime value and your revenue, and retention is terrible because you're creating so much content and working on the front end that you're not paying attention to what's like walking out the door behind you. Yeah.
All right. So what are you excited about this year that's coming up?
I'm really excited about a couple things. So one that I'm excited about is I just had a call with Microbiome Labs, and we are collaborating for the upcoming IFM conference that's happening here in San Diego. And we are doing a pre-conference lunch and business kind of networking meetup workshop. So people can, if you guys are planning on coming to San Diego for IFM, in, what is that, May 28th. You can pencil in, put in your calendar to come hang out with us on that Wednesday, the 28th from 1 to 4 p.m. I'll be sending out information about this as we get closer to the date, so people can come join us for this lunch and business mixer, which is going to be awesome. Microbiome Labs is going to be talking about some of their new products and their reformulations of products. And then I'm going to be talking about how you can increase a client adoption and compliancy with supplements as part of the business model, which helps you then to increase your revenue, right? When they adopt supplements and they're more compliant with them, then that means more revenue for your practice. So that's going to be really exciting. Also, then Microbiome Labs is doing their symposium in September it's in Nashville this year. And so I'm also collaborating with them for that conference, where we are going to do a pre-conference meetup in Nashville at Danny Williams' practice. She's a local practitioner in Nashville, very successful. We're actually going to do an on-site little outing at her practice, at her place, where you guys are going to get to see how she operates her practice. And then Danny and myself are going to do some business education and training also. And then I'm going to be around at the conference speaking there for more business building aspects as well. So those are two things I'm super excited about. I mean, and of course, we're seeing this massive shift in the world today with RFK being confirmed. I'm just going to bring that up 5 more million times, because this is huge. It's just really big. This is a very big energetic shift for all of us. And I think we should all be really excited about what's to come.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a interesting few years. See how much change we can actually steer this gigantic boat from the traditional approach. But this has been a great discussion. I want to make sure that we get to the Q&A. We have questions if you're watching live or on a live stream. Feel free to post any questions. We'll try to get those answered. But before we dive in, I want to just remind everyone that we are hosting our virtual live Hicks Encore event, March 7th and 8th. It's your chance to reconnect, or if you weren't able to attend in person, it's a really great event to learn more about kind of business applications and how to grow and scale your business, including Jen, among many others. You can find all the details to RSVP for your ticket in the comments. Plus, this includes free access to those recordings. So, and if you're watching this as a replay, make sure to post those questions. We'll get Jen to answer those if they do come up. So first question, what are some effective marketing strategies for attracting ideal clients in the functional health space?
Oh, so good. So this is why getting really clear on your niche is so important. I want you to think about, your niche is like lab testing. We do lab testing to collect data insights about our clients in order to use that data to guide, their recommendations, right? So when you're super clear about your niche, you're going to intimately know who this person is. You're going to know things about them, like what social media platform do they like to hang out on? My people are on Instagram. They don't really love Facebook. You're going to know how they like to consume content. Do they prefer video? Do they prefer written content? Do they prefer audio content? So then now you can, based on the kind of content that they prefer, you're going to double down and produce that type of content. Basically, you're going to know where do they hang out? What are their hobbies or interests do they have? So you can maybe then network locally, right? With different gyms, practitioners, places like that to get in front of these people. It's really funny. I had a call with a practitioner earlier today, and he does telemedicine and he has a sailboat. And he's like, I just want to figure out how to get more clients to do telemedicine while I'm living on my sailboat. And we were talking about how his ideal client is a reflection of him. And I was like, then you should be connecting with people at yacht clubs, at sail clubs. These are your ideal audience, right? Mm-hmm. So when we get really clear on who the niche is, we know we can then be really targeted about our marketing strategies to get the greatest ROI, the greatest return on investment, because what everybody else is doing does not mean that that's best for you to do. Mm-hmm. Right.
Awesome. And then next question, in terms of kind of that practicing with freedom and burnout, but how can practitioners effectively balance their time between client care and business management?
You got to plug it into your calendar. It's just, what would you say to your client if they had that question, if they kind of reflected that question back to you? How do I balance my self-care with my family or my job? What would you advise them to do? You know, it's so funny that we think that business is so much different, but there's so much personal, practical application. So I know for me, I have to like that, having that visual cue in my calendar and that dedicated time is what makes sure that I'm accountable to doing that. I have an hour in my calendar every single day where I specifically pay attention to client related items, answering messages, confirming appointments or sending out content for the appointment tomorrow, right? Creating protocols. And then I also have like 90 minutes on my calendar consistently every Monday to write my blog, which also then gets reproduced as the newsletter and the social media content. So we have to create the container, the space to work on our business. That's how we create balance.
Yeah, amazing. Next question. Do you have any favorite technologies that you like to use for your business, Google Drive, Get project management, or any other services like a digital PA, etc.?
Yes, I have a couple of assistants in my business. So we're thinking about like, like starting to delegate things out. I would really start to take a look at what are the like meaningless administrative tasks that you're doing that aren't worth your time. So for me, the first person that I hired into my business was a bookkeeper, because sitting down and balancing my books every month was like such a tedious task. And I'm really good at numbers, but I actually hated it. And it would take me like 3 hours to do. And I was like, my time is worth $200 an hour. When I'm meeting with a client, I'm making $200 an hour. So this is actually sitting down and doing this by myself is costing me $600, right? Versus I could hire a bookkeeper who could probably knock this out in an hour for like $50. Right? That is huge. So I hired a bookkeeper. Then the next thing that I hired was a virtual assistant. My virtual assistant only works 5 hours a week for me, you guys. I think people get really hung up on the idea of hiring because they think that they have to have a budget to pay for somebody full-time or part-time. But in this day and age, with the concept of virtual assistants and virtual team members, you have a lot of flexibility. You can hire for whatever like budget and time needs you have, essentially. So that virtual assistant started to like, she was the one that would put up my blog and put out my newsletter for me and file away receipts and things like that. Then I hired an intern. So my intern is an FDN trained just like me, who now does like, they're familiar in the way that I operate as an FDN. They've taken on some of the clinical stuff and interaction with clients off of my plate, right? I love using Asana as a project management system to help us keep track of like marketing projects and different things. That's how I interact with my social media assistant, with my VA, with my intern a lot, so that I can have visibility to all the tasks and things that are going on to manage that, to manage the business without having to do the work myself, essentially. And I automated my business a long time ago, like 10 years ago. So I use a CRM, I use Keep, that I fully automated my business with the concepts that we talked about today, like niching down, then having standard packages so that I could template, delegate, and automate everything.
Awesome. And then maybe just for the last couple of minutes, let's talk about HIX Encore. So maybe tell the audience about what's going to happen, what they can expect.
Yeah, this is not your typical virtual event. This is an opportunity to come and pick the brains of some of the, most successful, brightest, like top leading practitioners in our industry. Like, you're going to actually get to ask them anything live during this event. And I'm really excited to help MC this event, to facilitate this process so that this is going to be so immersive and engaging for all of those that attend. So often we go to these events, it's so oriented around like, presentations and talks. And we did all of that in October, right? And these speakers gave amazing presentations and talks in October. So part of Encore is that you're going to get access. You get access to their talks from October, like right away. Like Dr. Lisa Lewis, I think, signed up today. She got instant access to the recordings from October, so she can listen to the amazing information that these speakers had to share on stage about building and expanding a business and creating success for themselves. And then at Encore, this is 100% Q&A. So you're going to have the ability to submit questions ahead of time so that you can take priority in the Q&A queue. And then we have built into the structure networking breakout rooms on Zoom so that you can connect with your colleagues. You can also then connect with some of the speakers in these more intimate spaces that we have. So it's really all about like leveraging the power of community and collaboration here so that you guys can build, expand, and scale your practice. And like I said earlier, be the health hero that we need you all to be in the world, essentially.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're super excited. Happy to have you speaking on that along with everybody else. So definitely get your tickets if you don't have that already. But this has been a really great discussion. I want to thank all of you that joined us today and those who asked questions. If you're still watching as a replay, you can post your questions and we'll get those answered by Jen. Thank you again for joining me. So let's talk about where they can find your new program and where they can get signed up for the masterclass.
Yeah, awesome. I think that the link to the masterclass and the upcoming workshops has been dropped in the chat across the channels, wherever people are maybe joining us. But you can also go to healthbusiness.today/biocanic masterclass. At that link, you're going to see the recording, the limited time replay of the training that I did last night about the profitable practice strategies to avoid burnout and scale with freedom, where I talk about the 3 critical steps that are relevant for every single business, no matter what stage or size of the business. And that's also where you're going to find the information to get the entire step-by-step playbook of this framework to scale with the masterclass that is going to be supported with these bonus live business planning workshops coming up on February 26th and 28th. And you get a bonus 45-minute mentoring session with me to schedule to make sure that you are equipped to execute the content with success. So yeah, I think everybody has the information.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. Really enjoyed it. Obviously, we'll talk more later. All right, everybody. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.